Well, I adjusted it some.
You okay?
I'm more worried about
Well, I
your
guess it's
foot.
still wrong foot. My hurt foot, I broke a toe about 2 weeks ago. And that foot is on this side, which just is dumb luck, because otherwise we'd be stepping on each other and hurting it.
Yeah, that would be bad. Hello everyone, my name's Joshua Barber, and today I'm here with my dad, Loyal, and we're going to build a 486. That should be fun. I know you're probably going, why the fuck you built a 486? Why the fuck wouldn't I want to build a 486? That's a better question.
This is something that we originally did in the early 90s. Joshua's first computer was a 486 that he shared with his brother. And so, yeah, call it a nostalgia trip, call it the games were quite fun back then trip. Whatever you need to call it, that's what we're doing.
I remember helping you build computers. I think the first one I remember helping you build ran Windows 3.1. The first computer I remember using, I know ran 3.1. That's what we're going to build today, is a DOS gaming machine that runs DOS 6.22 and Windows 3.11, because what's the point in having 3.1 if you can't attempt to get on the internet?
So we got the Windows for Workgroups version, and believe it or not, this thing was sealed when we bought it.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was surprised we got a sealed copy. It blew my mind, and it was a lot cheaper than getting the two individual, getting like sealed copies of the two individual or in the box or whatever.
Yeah, it was actually the only brand new copy that I saw when I was looking, because as soon as I saw that copy with both Windows and Windows for Workgroups 3.11 and DOS 6, I said, I'm done looking. This is like 25 bucks.
Yeah, it was a really good deal, and we already purchased all the other parts. We're ready to go, and we'll take a look and we'll show them to you now. For starters, we have, of course, a 3.5 floppy and a 5 1/4 floppy, because what would a 486 be without those? We have a CD-ROM drive, and we have it's a 4 gig hard drive, which is a little bit bigger than we need, because I believe the largest size that 3.1 recognizes is 2.1.
But we can make 2 drives out of it, and that'll be fine.
Yeah, we can make 2 drives out of it, and that'll be fine. We'll just partition it. And then we have a 250 watt power supply, which is probably more than we need. This is a Sound Blaster, some kind of Sound Blaster 16, and I do not remember exactly what it is off the top of my head. Do you remember what that is, Dad?
It was a 16, but I don't remember past that. There's a little bit of reading. Creative Technology, 1997, just the other day.
And then we have, this is a Tseng Labs ET6000, which is one of the last video cards Tseng Labs ever made, and it's a very high-end card for a 486 DOS computer. It was very high-end for a computer that isn't meant for 3D gaming. Then we have an AM486 DX4-100, which is overkill for processor. Of course, we have a CPU fan, which I realize I don't need a CPU fan, but I kind of feel better with one.
Hey, we're going to run these games as hard as they can. Never hurts to cool a little.
Yeah, and then we have this. It can go up to an AM486 DX4-100, and it can hold up to 120 meg of RAM. So,
woo, that's megs? Did you say megs?
Yeah, so that's all the motherboard we need for this thing. Speaking of mega RAM, you look over here, and we have,
I believe it's 16 altogether, so they're like 4 each.
No, that's 64. It's one of them.
64?
It's 64.
Each one of them 16 then?
Yeah, each one of them is 16.
Well, once again, the old man knows nothing.
Once again, that is overkill. And then last but not least, look at this freaking case.
I got to back up now, because I had been in tight, and I can't get... Okay, I hope everybody didn't get sick when I did that. I turned it just so we could get the whole case in. This bad boy. Well, you talk about it.
It's huge. You know, I didn't expect it to be this big when I bought it on eBay, but it is absolutely massive, and I fucking love it for it. And it's got the switch with the keys you could do. It's got a turbo button, of course, and then a display for your processor speed, which is also cool. And it's got this big, clunky power supply. Love that sound.
Power button, yep.
Power button, yeah. Power switch.
Yeah, back in the day we called it the big red switch. This is very close to being exactly that.
And that's everything we're going to put in this thing. And we're going to install Windows 3.11 and DOS 6.22 to it. So it should be awesome. It should be overkill for that kind of machine. And if you knew me, you probably know that I would go with overkill.
Okay, here goes. This is the treatment from the movie Airplane. Do 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 do. Now, part of the key to successfully working together on something as small as this is one of you ends up kind of directing it and the other one ends up actually physically doing it. Now, these days Joshua doesn't need me to direct him. Let's face it, he can do this without me, but he invited me to be on this. Okay, yeah, I paid him money so I could be on it. And now the two of us will work together as we do quite often on a computer.
The CPU fan attached to that first, so I think is that what we should start off with? Is put the CPU on the motherboard?
I like to start off with the CPU. There's not that much we'll put on the motherboard before we put it in the case.
That and the memory?
That's about right.
And I don't think we've ever used this boot before, have we?
No, not this particular.
Because this was like high dollar something you bought, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was fairly high dollar.
I'm sure
of course, it's the industrial size.
The 55-gallon?
Exactly.
I'm sure when you bought it, your plan was to build a 486 with it.
Maybe not. Okay, your turn.
Okay, how does this...
You had it on the other day, all I remember.
Yeah. There we go, just like that.
I missed it.
It just snaps right on.
Well, that's what we wanted. Okay. Now, on any processor, even one this old, it will have a way to tell how it goes into the processor slot, or in this case, pins.
Which are right here.
Now, it looks to me like the clue is in this corner. You've got what essentially forms a W at the corner. I can't tell.
I have removed this processor once before to get it into this and figure out how to put it into this CPU fan. And I thought there was only one way that it would go on here.
I agree with you. I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. There's probably only one way that the pins are aligning perfectly, but I'll be damned if I know what that is.
Well, if you've done it before, I'll let you go to town with it. You only have 4 different opportunities, so we probably will miss on several occasions.
No.
Boy, you know, the pan paying attention would have rotated clockwise every time instead of clockwise the first time, then 180 counterclockwise. You're way too far that direction, aren't you? No, that won't work. That worked.
There it went down.
We'll smoke test after a while. And by that I mean that we'll get stuff out and we'll smoke it.
That's not going to destroy the processor, is it?
Of course it could destroy the processor. What fun would it be if it couldn't?
I mean, that fits in there snug. I think that's right.
I'm going with it's right. And again, you'd already tried it, I think, at least 2 different ways, or 3. And if you'd already tried it 3, there's only one more way it could possibly go.
Okay, and then we have the RAM, and this RAM is all the same. It's 16 megabyte by 4, so it's 64 in total, which is absolutely overkill for a 486. This would make a damn fine Windows 95 machine, and I'm installing 3.1 on it.
Now the way these go into the slot is there's a little bit of diagonal to it, and then you flip it back up into a vertical position.
Did I get it? I don't think I got it.
Alright, let me take a look at it and see. Okay, it should go all the way down if we've got it in correctly.
It snaps in, I know that.
That slides in, that side's in, we got one done. This motherboard's old enough though that some of these things will have been used multiple times. And so sometimes you don't get the satisfying snap, etc. you might have gotten from a brand new motherboard. This guy is more than 20 years old. The fact that it still runs is pretty amazing in and of itself.
We bought it from Russia.
Because it's the only place we can find one.
Let's try this one. Yeah.
Could be operator error.
I think that snapped in.
Yeah, it looked like it did.
Okay, well that's 2.
Okay, the last one was 2, so this is 4. No, wait. 1, 2,
That's
4. 3,
taller.
sir. 3.
That's a little bit taller. Huh.
Yeah, maybe getting identical modules wasn't going to happen even though we bought it from one place.
Yeah. So we got 2 different set kinds, but they're all 16. Yeah, they're all 16.
So long as you've got them in matched pairs, it really doesn't matter, and it looks like we've got them in matched pairs.
Ah.
Yeah, that's going to happen some too.
I think I got it all in.
Well, there's a chance you did. Okay, so next thing you need me to do is, I assume this.
Yeah, the case.
Let me get the motherboard out of the way. Now, how do the standoffs go in this?
We're about to figure that out.
Oh, okay.
They should be in that bag over there. I would imagine.
And by that bag, we mean big old bag of parts.
Lots and lots of parts.
Unless I'm mistaken, the way this works is you actually put these pins on the motherboard first. Like so. They just press, and because these pieces are brand new, it also clicks. Now, we really don't know that much about this motherboard.
We couldn't find much information at all online about this motherboard.
We did buy it from Russia. So there's a guy in Russia that I'm sure knows almost nothing about it that sold it to us.
Yep. Russians hacking the election with their 486.
Probably, yes.
Shit that didn't happen that the media won't shut up about.
Some people would have lined it up and looked at it in the case first. That's for wimps that can't redo things.
Do we look like wimps? Or do we look like fat guys?
Okay, we look like wimpy fat guys, but... You know, Joshua tried to tell me that we should put it in the case first. Turns out he was right, and one more time, I was wrong.
Well, we haven't done anything that absolutely needs the case yet.
I know, but just working on that just now, I managed to knock out one of the pieces, one of the sticks of memory.
Oh, we can't have that.
Well, you'd think not, wouldn't you? I think I've got it right. But again, don't know because we don't have much information about the motherboard itself. Now, this is truly old school in that you basically drop it in and slide it. And believe it or not, it actually feels pretty solid in there.
Did it slide in? Did it snap?
Well, it doesn't actually snap. Okay, it's sort of like a picture hanger. As you can see, you've got this part where you put the put in the standoff, and then it slides up to this part where it does as much snapping as it's going to do, which is none.
It certainly snapped when you pulled it back.
Okay, we need actual standoffs, I think, for these two, because my suspicion is those are real grounds that need to be accounted for. Don't worry if you don't have any in there, we've got some upstairs.
Like that?
Exactly like that. And again, Joshua and I have been doing this so long that we rarely end up getting in each other's way. So I don't even have to go, Joshua, would you get that out of the bag? I just mention it, and he's already on the ball, already looking for the parts that we need.
There's one more.
It turns out that's how many I need. And then go ahead and find 2 screws for it while you got it. This part has got to be the most fascinating. If you're watching Josh here, you're seeing him dig through this massive bag of screws. Everybody needs a massive bag of screws.
You think this is a massive bag of screws? You should see the one we got upstairs.
Well, but that thing has accumulated over maybe 20 years of use, 20 plus now. Now, you're maybe saying to yourself, why didn't you do this ahead of time? Because this is how a real build goes, okay? We're not trying to put things on this video that essentially lie about how it's done. This is reality. We will have forgotten things like this that, yeah, we could have done ahead of time, but in reality, when you do a build, unless you're doing them daily with the same parts over and over, this is how it goes.
Where do these screw in? Here?
Okay,
and
yeah,
here?
there's 2 spots there on the back. And looking at the motherboard, you can see these 2 spots for the screws. And notice that there's silver all the way around, and that it's got lumps to it. That's so it makes better contact with the grounding screw. So it's critically important that we do this, especially since in this particular case, the rest of the standoffs are plastic. Plastic being that great. Sorry, go ahead.
You got electricity running through it, you want to ground it. Simple as that. But this is what that does.
Yeah, that way also, if you happen to get your floppy drive hooked up upside down, you get real smoke this way.
Which you once assured me was impossible.
You know, I thought it was.
And then you assured Mark that it was impossible. I don't know who Mark is, but he's a business partner.
And sure enough, he was able to also plug one in upside down.
He quit saying it after he got proved wrong twice.
Yeah, and smoked 2 floppy drives. The good news is floppy drives these days are fairly cheap to come by. The bad news is we want to test last on the 5 1/4 because I don't know where we would get something to replace that bad boy.
Yeah, we better not plug in the floppy drive upside down because otherwise we can't install Windows and DOS.
Well, the 3 1/2 will do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we need to not hook up.
But the 5 1/4, we're good to go.
I don't have anything to test on the 5 1/4, so I don't know what to. I mean, I want a 5 1/4 because it's a 486. You got to have it a 5 1/4, right?
Yeah, back in that day you did.
So I still want one, but
Sure am glad I put that away. Because now I need it again.
is that in there solid or?
It's in there as solid as it's going to be until we get screws in it. You want to do the screws, sir? You'll do the honors since this is your monster. Now, it's important to note when you're doing this that you have to get some heat sink goop on the back of the case. That way they know it's done by a professional. Don't try this at home. Yeah, if you don't have a magnetic screwdriver to do this with, get one. But if you're really stuck and you're having to do one without, find some Vaseline or some lithium grease and use it to stick.
Let's finish this screw back up. My camera can only record 30 minutes at a time, so we have to stop and set up another take every 25 or so minutes to make sure we don't miss when it shuts off recording.
Next thing would be...
Video card and sound card, I think.
Yep, that's what I would say. You'll have to knock out the... Yeah, you're going to cut yourself because that's what these are designed to do.
Fun.
The nice thing is they leave these nice sharp edges when you punch them out so that you can cut yourself severely and bleed all over it. So as well as having heat sink goop everywhere, we will also have blood.
Which is a game that I would like to get and play on this at some point.
Mounting video cards and things of that nature is fairly straightforward. In this case, it's using an ISA bus, which stood for industry standard. Let me stumble my way through this. Industry standard architecture, which is the bus that existed with the original IBM PC. I believe these are technically extended industry standard architecture, and that these are for 16-bit. The original IBM PC was only an 8-bit machine.
I was going to say it was 8-bit, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's busy doing records.
Okay, and I actually got a PCI video card for this thing. Because I have 3 PCI slots, I might as well
I
have
don't know,
one.
I like to sew swivel, and it didn't make me tired. Yeah. Not through the shoulders and.
Let's pull this out and put the PCI
Whatever I
card
started,
in.
I wanted.
I will.
Crazy.
I will eventually put a.
If you don't know Archer, go look it up. The show Archer, the early few seasons, the game called Phrasing.
It's a lot like That's What She Said.
Except funny. Unlike That's What She Said.
Did this video card also come from Russia?
Yes, it did. This the same. In fact, the exact same seller on eBay, who we highly recommend, and we'll make a note of all the places we got the parts toward the end of the sessions, and let you know, a good guy in Russia, honest to goodness, he's done us a super job, and we highly recommend him.
Boy, these things, I remember these things being a pain in the ass back then.
Well, they're still a pain in the ass now.
Of course.
Maybe we should put it in a slower slot.
Yeah, maybe we should. We got plenty of slots to put these 3 drives in anyway.
Your wish is my command. Or something like that.
Well, that's almost got it.
Hey, almost counts, doesn't it?
Ah!
That's not it.
There we go.
And actually, yeah, there's little pieces of metal that act as a base for that. These should be the smallest screws you have. Try it and see.
Just.
Oh, you made that look easy.
Well, I didn't tighten it all the way. I want to get the others in before I do that. Do we do 2 per side, or?
Yeah. Anything else is just overkill. Now, I can't tell about the front alignment, so you'll have to check that and then tighten when you're ready.
There we go.
Alright. Now, for right now, we're just going to put in the screws on this side of each of these devices because we have to flip the thing completely over to do the other side, and we don't want to do that necessarily yet.
Let's put in the 5 1/4 right underneath that. Boy, that slides in easy. Boy, I can't remember the last time I used a 5 1/4, Dad.
It's been a while. Try that.
Getting drivers for these things should be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a whole other video, I suspect.
I was gonna get drivers off screen and then just
Yeah.
install it after we get them, and show the installation process for Windows, but not the getting the driver process.
Well, and drivers back then aren't like drivers now, where you have USB and plug and play. This is back in the day where everything was manual. So when you wanted a driver, you ran a program that did the install of the driver, or you copied it to the hard drive, to the root of the hard drive, and manually loaded it from config.sys. How many of you remember config.sys? And autoexec.bat.
How many of you want to forget config.sys?
Well, we can't do that.
I'm going with we didn't screw up. I'll hold this and you put screws in it.
No thanks. One down. Now this one, because it's not in the case yet, we can go ahead and put the screws for the other side in now, but the ones that attach it actually are going to attach it to the case we can't do yet.
You can put up to 6 screws in this, but you really only need 4.
In fact, just 3 will do it. I have on occasion put it in with 1. You know, when I was doing a really sloppy job.
Yeah.
For instance, the first 2, the SSD that was a 2.5 that I put in, I failed to buy the adapter, so I just screwed in one side to the slot, and that worked like a charm. It should go in that way. Cross your fingers.
You want to screw it in, I'll hold it, or... I can screw it in, you hold it. Either way works for me.
Well, this plastic doesn't look thread like it's already threaded. I'm not sure about that.
Not much I can do about that.
No, it just means you need one that will self-thread, a self-threading screw in rather than a standard screw, which is what I picked out. No,
Yeah, there's
further down, that way, toward the light. See it? There you go. Okay, how close to aligned are you?
I'm pretty much aligned.
Okay. Now, there's no reason for you to go all Arnold Schwarzenegger on this and tighten it until your face turns blue and you rip threads out of the thing, especially when you're screwing into plastic. You just want it tight.
Unless you really feel like imitating Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He's not a tumor.
Say what you will about his acting. The guy made some damn good films. The guy was in some damn good.
One of the problems back at the AT point of building computers, like a 486, was most of the things that we take for granted and are standard now weren't then. So for example, oh, you know what I brought? I brought some old school mounting brackets for a 3.5-inch drive. That will do the same thing as the plastic, only better, because it's almost infinitely adjustable. For what it's worth, look at this and tell me what you think.
Let me finish getting this
Sure,
out.
no problem.
That'll work. We just got to figure out how to get it stuck in there.
Oh, that part's easy. It's called a drill. And we have one.
Yeah.
It wasn't common back in that day to have to drill holes in a case, but it wasn't unheard of either. I can remember that we had built a computer for the Department of Defense, and in that case, what do you want?
Mounting brackets.
You mean these mounting brackets?
Yeah.
I haven't seen them. We built a computer for the Department of Defense, and once all the parts were together, we did end up doing a lot of work with a Dremel tool to get everything to fit.
Only gonna line up with one of the holes at a time.
Flip it over. Now it'll line up. You're gonna have to trust me on that.
I am going to put these mounting brackets on the hard drive and try to get the hard drive into this thing. That is the next step, and I doubt you guys can see what I'm doing here. Maybe if I put it up here, because I can't see what the camera's seeing, so we're doing our best to try to fit, but we're amateurs when it comes to shooting this kind of shit. So don't expect highly professional, fully edited, lazy game reviews type of thing from me. And Clint, if you're watching, I know you said you wanted to see this. Hello, and I love your work. Where's the other one? There it is. You had said in the past that you would be interested in watching a video if I did a video out of my 486 build. That was months ago. And I'm finally doing it. It has taken me months to gather all of the exact parts that I need for this, and I had specific parts in mind all along that I wanted to do this with.
Now, while we were gone,
we did a couple things. We managed to mount the power supply in this thing, which we had to mod the case in order to do. We had to drill a few holes in the side of it and only missed once.
6 total holes. There's not only the power supply itself, but there's a power button attached to it, and we're sort of assuming that that's like the power switches that come on the back of modern power, but we really don't know.
We're not entirely sure what it is. As long as it works, we're good. But we also got all of the front panel stuff hooked up, which we decided to do off screen, largely because we didn't want to stand up, look down over the keyboard or the motherboard and block the camera.
Yeah, there's no way you could get a good camera shot of that because it's hard enough to do without trying to dance around a camera. So we have our floppy drives in, our CD-ROM in, and now that we've got the 3.5-inch hard drive, we're ready to mount it.
We're going to put this in this last slot here, although we might be able to put this in the first one as well if need be.
Yeah, it could go in either. Alexa also does keeping time for our dogs so they know what time it is to get teeth bones. So that's going to happen.
I wasn't able to understand the question I heard.
Yeah, when you say her name, she kind of goes nuts. I'm not sure that's the...
Oh,
what does that mean?
To go nuts.
Alexa, off.
Come on.
I am shocked they're being quiet.
It's almost like they knew we were filming. Those are not the same screws, by the way. That's why you were having trouble with the one you used first.
Okay, let's replace that one then.
Ah! Force it! Because that's never a problem, is it? By the way, on a more serious note, unless you absolutely have to, don't force it. Because you'll end up with a hard drive that later on you can't mount anywhere except with duct tape.
But that'll be a good look.
Yeah.
Shit.
We don't know why, but Joshua apparently is defecating right now. We originally had this hard drive mounted in the plastic, in one of the plastic mounts that we had.
Which is designed for floppy, and turns out that didn't work so well.
So we went up to the office, also known as the Bermuda Rectangle, and I found actual metal mounting brackets for it.
So we have proper brackets for it now, which is fun. Now, you said we need to plug in the data cable, which you have over there. And I don't know about a data cable for
the floppy?
Does this include a data cable? This does not include a data cable for the 5 1/4, does it?
No, that would be a flop for a floppy. And we're gonna have to run 2 data cables or move the hard drive up to the top slot so it can hit both the CD-ROM and the hard drive on one cable.
I would recommend always screwing them in part of the way until you get all of it properly aligned. That's what I always do. I'm sure it's standard procedure for a lot of people that build this kind of crap. Then again, who the hell builds a 486 besides Lazy Game Reviews, huh? Which, if you haven't checked out his channel, I'd highly recommend it. He does very good work. If you like computer games and gaming in general and old computer technology and stuff like that, Lazy Game Reviews is a great channel. I've been subscribed to him for years now. I actually sent him something, and for the life of me, can't even remember what it was. It was some kind of camera for Windows 98 that looked like a big pen, kind of. It was hooked up through USB, and it was really strange looking. Doesn't look like I can hook either one of these up incorrectly. Yeah, I can't. Let's go ahead and plug in this into the data cable. Plug that bad boy in right there. There's not much room in between the data cable, where the data cable plugs in, and the power supply, so this ain't easy. But I got it. And is this gonna be fucking long enough? God, I hope so. Otherwise I'm gonna have to move stuff to the two bottom in order to have extra room to plug the data cable in. That would be fun. Now I'm not entirely sure this data cable's gonna reach, Dad.
That is a problem.
Am I gonna have to rearrange the order that these drives are in?
I may have a longer cable and I can go look for that, but think about this in terms of floppy, and you can see there's only one flaw with it.
The wrong kind of floppy?
Nope. It only has one head, so you can only use one floppy right now. We'll check
So this
the 5 1/4 drive.
this doesn't plug into both the floppy and the...
That's not a floppy, that's a hard drive, and that's the CD-ROM. And those, I guess, need to move down here.
Yeah, we need to rearrange.
Let me
this
see if
entire
I've got a
thing.
longer cable for IDE. But in the meantime, this is a floppy, and you'll have to figure out how. That's the only floppy cable I have, so you'll have to figure out how to deal with that.
Oh, we never hooked up the serial port for the mouse.
Ah, yes, I need to take those off of the card covers and us use the proper positions on the back of the case.
Were you gonna hook up the parallel port? Because
I say yes.
I got no use for it, but
We have no use for a 5 1/4 floppy.
you say that now.
And we in fact don't have a cable for it.
I may have put a cable for it in one of my other computers, but don't quote me on that. CD-ROM drive.
That is one downside to having such a huge case, is getting the cables to reach. As is always the case, while I was upstairs looking for a floppy cable, I found one thing we were looking for earlier tonight, and that is a tester for an IDE drive. And one thing that I've been looking for all week, and that is a stylus force gauge for a turntable. There's a new sheriff in town. This would be Loyal, also known as Joshua's dad. And of course, those two, I don't know if you can see them, have all of the pins. Yet the cable that I have doesn't. Let me look at the other cable. It also doesn't. Lovely! Very nice! So not only are we going to have to get cables, we're going to have to get cables with all the pinouts. Thank you. This was made by a Chinese company, the Motherboard. And I want to say Chain Tech. Anyway, thank you very much for not leaving the pin off that you're supposed to leave. You can see here on the cable, hopefully, that there's a place that's supposed to keep you from plugging these in upside down or backwards. This motherboard, unfortunately, doesn't support that. So, other than that, everything's going great. Now I'm going to get, because I'm an old guy, I can get away with this. See, I'm 57, which by your standards as the viewer almost certainly makes me ancient, which I'm fine with. Okay, pin 1 is toward what would be called the back of the case, so we should be able to possibly do a ghetto modification to this and make it work. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and knock out some of these pre-punches, which we're going to use to hook up the parallel drive that my son thinks I'm stupid for doing, and 2 serial ports, one of them 25 pin and one of them 9 pin. Not real sure why they continued making the 25 pins back in the day. They only use the same number of pins as the 9 pin, which means that at least 16 of the pins are going to waste. But still, they did it, and we're going to put it in just because we can. So on the back of the case, since we have those places to put them, I'm going to go ahead and install those now. These have on the outside, if you will, a hex. It's basically like a hex nut, and I will use the hex driver bit for our screwdriver here in order to connect and tighten these so they don't fall out. With this case, I thought this was interesting. They gave us a bunch of stickers that you can use to label what is, you know, a parallel, what is a printer port, and what is, you know, if you don't know that, you probably shouldn't be building a 486, especially 20 years after the last 486 came off of the production line. Wasn't too long that we got into Pentiums, and Pentiums gave way to
AMD, I think.
well, Athlons, and later on Core 2s. Now we're partial in this family to AMD products. I guess it goes back to being for the underdog.
I have an AMD 8-core in my main machine. You're gonna get the. I think you got the exact same one for your machine.
Yeah, for my home theater machine. I mean, I was having to upgrade it because it wouldn't keep up with our digitizing program, which we use to digitize vinyl albums and allow you to take your vinyl albums with you either on a CD or, better still, on your phone. So now I have those mounted in the back, and I'm going to, Alright, here's after we connected it and got it booting up again. Well, it's not really that simple, but we had to buy a new motherboard for this thing because the one we had didn't work. Among other things, we ended up also having to buy a smaller hard drive in order to get it to work. Yeah, the motherboard is
hang on, I will get you the exact details on which motherboard it is, but I'll put it in the description below, but I'll tell you as soon as I can log into eBay and fucking figure it out.
I can tell you this much: it's a BioStar. One of the things that you forget about is these older motherboards like this had shunts and jumpers every frickin' where. I mean, they're all over the place, and you had to get everything set up just right to find the dang thing. You probably will have to go with the hidden, because I may have already taken it, left feedback and hidden it.
How do I get to the hidden? Okay, it's a BioStar MB8433 UUD-A motherboard. I will put that in the link in the description below if you want to look it up and check it out. But as far as capabilities goes, and even look, it's almost identical to the one we were originally using. But the difference is this one worked.
And it turns out that's an important part.
Yeah, that really is. Here we are installing, you probably already figured this out, but we're installing DOS. I did a time lapse on everything that we install in this, so it'll go through all of it fairly quickly like it's doing now. It took like 5 minutes longer than this to get through the DOS install.
It's been years since I've had one where I had to watch it do the format like this. Because mostly what we do is quick formats these days. We don't have the problems with sectors being bad that we did back in the day.
This footage is also that footage there was also time lapsed, but I switched it from A being the boot drive to C being the boot drive. So now we got DOS installed, and I'm looking at another. I think this was after I installed the CD-ROM, which unfortunately I did not get footage of that. And here we're installing the Sound Blaster 16, and I actually had some problems after the Sound Blaster 16 was installed because it didn't work right. I could get music, I could not get sound effects. I got it working right, at least in DOS now. So
what did you have to do to make that work?
I downloaded a different driver than the one here. That it's got the exact same install program, so it looks exactly like this, but it's just a different version of the same driver, really.
Isn't that strange? You would think, and maybe this is just me, but it's like when we say if something gets on the internet, it's there forever. Apparently, versions of drivers have that problem too. So you would think we would just have the latest version of the Sound Blaster 16 driver out there, but you'd be wrong.
No, I mean, I was able to go there to find some website where I could download these ancient-ass Sound Blaster 16 drivers, which, when the hell was the last time someone even made a Sound Blaster 16 driver?
It's probably been quite a while. Most of the time now, if you went probably starting Windows 95, but definitely by 98, it would just recognize that it was a Sound Blaster 16 and no special driver was required.
For the record, you probably already figured this out, but I'm recording this off screen. I just have a camera pointed at the screen, and I couldn't figure out any other way to get it to work, so I couldn't hook this up to a capture device, at least not for the time being, which means Let's Plays from this particular computer will have to wait.
Right now, we had to spend extra money on the motherboard, on the hard drive, and, well, you know, the project just kind of ran out of money because of that.
Yeah. Here I am. I originally tried to install Windows from the floppy drive, and every single time I did, it would go error loading progman.exe, whatever the hell that is. So what you're seeing here is actually a CD version that I downloaded an image from, and that managed to get the damn thing installed. So this isn't the floppy disk version, even though it looks like it is, because that's how I edited the footage together. That's how I edited it together, but I'm not trying to deceive you. I didn't get footage of me going cd space d:/setup.exe in DOS.
You would be amazed at the times that Joshua just had to beat one problem to death after another in order to get this thing to work. But it's impressive. I've seen some of his gameplay footage on Quake, and
That's
it looks
coming
really
up at
good.
the end. That's coming up at the end. Spoiler alert, I guess, that there is gameplay footage of Quake to test this at the end of it. It runs in 320 by 200, very low resolution, but it works. And it works a bit better than I was honestly expecting. I mean, granted, this is a high-end 486 with the 100 megahertz processor and the 64 mega RAM and the PCI high-end Tseng Labs video card and everything, but
Gosh, been forever since I've seen Windows 3.1.1.
yeah, well, it works. It took a lot
What
of
applications? We don't have applications.
It took a lot of finagling to get it all working, but it works.
Yeah, let's skip the tutorial. Let's just go straight to the reboot.
Yeah, fuck the tutorial. I just go straight to the reboot. I'm not going to use Windows for that much anyway. Playing Windows games for that from this era, but most of that was DOS.
Yeah, even then you would just go in one of these Windows and create a shortcut to your game, and then Windows kind of gets out of the way and lets you run it. Some of the DOS games, though, don't play well with Windows. So I think Duke Nukem was one of those that you just ran from DOS, period, and there was no getting around that.
I did get this thing to run Duke Nukem. There, I installed the video driver for this, which I couldn't believe I found a video driver for this old thing. Like, finding much information at all on Tseng Labs video cards is difficult. Okay, here's coming the Quake footage, and maybe a little bit choppy, but what do you expect? This thing was not built to play Quake, especially when you choppy turn around and you see the 3 zombies here in this demo. But I did not just build this thing to play Quake. I installed Quake purely to test its capabilities and just see if it could do it. I also was able to get Duke 3D to run, so that's fun. I need to get a floppy disk copy of Doom and Doom 2 and get those running on this thing as well. But
here he's playing with all the options in here, and frankly I couldn't tell what the hell he was doing. So it's not important to this. The important thing is he's able to demonstrate that, by golly, he got it to go.
yeah, this was recorded without sound because, as I mentioned earlier, I was not able to get the sound working perfectly. And here I am trying to figure out the controls because I'm so used to playing this with WASD and a mouse. And at this time I wasn't able to get the mouse look working. I have since gotten the mouse to work in DOS. I found a old program called mouse.com that was able to get it working just fine, and it also works just fine in Windows, as you saw.
One of the things that you forget about over 20 plus years, it's been since we built a machine like this, is just how difficult it was to do. It says a lot about how far computing's come, that it is so significantly easier now. Now, a lot of the time you put it together and everything works the first time. With this, what would you say? Put one thing in, try 3 or 4 things, finally it works.
Yeah, and then something else doesn't work, and you have to get that working next, and then something else doesn't work, and you have to get that working next. It's a process, and a very long and frustrating one that you have to go through to get this to work. But I was impressed with its ability to run Quake. It doesn't run it perfectly, but by God, I got it to run it.
And it looks, actually, to me, to my eye, it looks pretty good. Now, it's not super resolution or any of those things, but by golly, you can tell what's going on here in Quake. He says there's some stutters in here, and I'm sure if I knew the game better anymore, it's been a while since I played Quake, that I would see them too. But I don't really see much in the way of stutters or any problems walking through, running through, doing any of those things.
Of course, I'm used to playing Quake on the Dark engine nowadays, which the Dark Places engine nowadays, which allows me to run it in 1920 by 1080 with a bunch of modern like lighting effects and all kinds of stuff, and a whole bunch of added fog effects and all kinds of crap that really make it look a lot better than it originally did without really altering the look of the game, if that makes sense. It does.
But this is how it looked for us back in the day.
Yeah. Back in the days when you were lucky if you could get this thing to run at 30 frames per second, and nowadays with the Dark Places mod and all the updates, it's easy to get it to run at 60.
Yeah, what'll be
Constantly.
interesting is if a year from now he wants to upgrade to a 586.
I doubt I'd want to upgrade to a 586, but there is room to upgrade on this. You can go up to a at least an AM486 DX4-100, and you can.
No, actually, this will take a 586 chip.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And you can put up to 128 meg of RAM. I got 64 in it because I had read online that there were problems with some of these older games that I want to play with anything more than 64 meg of RAM. So I went with 64.
Sounds like the thing to do.
Because more power, that's what I do.
Well, and if you're going to have problems, why invite that right now?
Yeah.
Put it at 64 and enjoy the game.
So I'm definitely going to enjoy this computer. We're coming up on the end of the video here. But the hard drive, I don't think we talked about the hard drive. It's a Samsung 1.6 gig, so it's a bit smaller than the largest hard drive that Windows 3.1 and DOS 6.22 will recognize, which is 2.1 gig, which I think was the problem we were having with the 4.6, with the 4.3 or whatever it was. That, or it just plain doesn't work.
Yeah, I came to the conclusion it just didn't work because I couldn't, we'd hook the thing up to different machines, Linux, Windows. None of them could get it to hold a partition. So you could do all the partitioning you wanted so long as it didn't you didn't want it to stay. We did get our $5 back for the actual device. We didn't get the full 10 because the postage is postage, and that's gone. I mean, if I had sent it back to him, I'd have gotten postage. But that's pretty much just a trade-off at that point.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that it didn't work, but it was too large for DOS anyway. I'm not sure that this version of DOS and this version of Windows recognizes partitions in the first place.
Oh yeah, it did. It did recognize those partitions. It's just when you got a drive that big. The way I remember it, there were drivers that you had to install before you installed DOS, and it's been too long.
And here it is, the final
there
build.
it is.
There it is, the final build. Yeah, it's been. Finish your thought.
Well, it's kind of a thing of beauty, if you ask me. That huge case, just incredible, and makes a serious clunking sound when you turn it on.
Yeah, I love that about it. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video. This has been a long time coming. I have been talking about wanting to do this and gathering parts for 6 months now.
At least, yeah.
And I finally got the damn thing built, and it's ready to go when I promised you guys a video, and I really appreciate you guys spending time to watch this over an hour long video. Thanks everybody, and goodbye. You want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.